Now, more of your go-to for all things home. This is Home Answers Radio, presented by JeffBuysYourHouse.com, Access, Level 10 Coatings, Steiner Homes, Center Guard Plumbing, and by American Beam and Steel. Once again, here's Roger Piper.
Your go-to for all things home. It's Home Answers Radio.
Hi, welcome to Home Answers. I'm Roger Piper. The show's all about your home, and we talk about everything. And we got Mike Epping from Center Guard Plumbing with us. Mike, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Roger. I appreciate it.
When we talk about plumbing, one of the things that you have to take into consideration is when you need it, you need it. And one of the real advantages of Center Guard Plumbing is you can go online and you can get it's a calculator, right? You fill in the information, you can upload some pictures, and then you're going to give them a quote back, right?
Yeah, a hard quote.
A hard quote.
Yes.
So you don't sit there with the anxiety going, what is this going to cost me? Yeah, you know. And that's pretty cool. So, 80% of the time when you need a plumber, it's an emergency. So keep that in mind. If you got a website, if your internet's working, then that's sure a great way to check things out. Now, Mike, you've been in business for a long time. You got 22 trucks?
Yeah, 20. We have 22. We've got 2 ready to roll if we need to put them out, but generally 25 days a week and half of that on Saturday.
So what that means is that you're large enough to take care of things. You're not going to see somebody in 2 or 3 days. When it comes to rainy season and you want to protect, one thing about it, almost everybody has a sump pump because of just the way we are around here. And if you have a sump pump, you got to make sure it's working in the rainy season and really all the time, because when it fails, you got water everywhere. So what are some tips for people? Let's say that you got a sump pump, been sitting there, you don't notice any water, so you think everything's okay. What's some preventative things that you should be thinking about with your sump pump, Mike?
Yeah, what you're going to definitely want to do, I would do this every, probably March. As things start to thaw and you're not worried about maybe that pump that never runs, that line's probably not going to be frozen. It's a good time to test that pump and make sure it actually works. You could do that either by lifting the float, or you could just run a hose into the sump pump, fill it up, and make sure that it works. Mm-hmm. So that's the key going into the season, and making sure that it actually works. And then you've got to have, a plan moving forward if it was to fail. And eventually it's going to fail. Some people will do preventative maintenance. They know that pump's 5, 6, 7 years old, and they'll just say, okay, I want to get another one. And I'm fine with that. That's great. But you really, it always goes at the worst possible time.
Right, when you've got water.
Yep, and when you're looking at your basement, whether it's finished or not, when that sump pump goes, you're talking inches of water. Well, all it takes is 3 inches and your water heater's shot.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah, you're right.
Now you got a huge repair. Any manufacturer, the minute that water heater is flooded in any way, shape, or form, and a lot of people don't think 3 inches of water is flooding your water heater, but the minute it gets in the burn chamber, all your manufacturer warranties are gone, and you're on your own. And if you want to try to light it, then that's at your own risk. Any good, plumbing contractor is not going to light that because of, the rainwater, the mud, things getting inside the burn chamber, clogging the orifice on the burner, all those things, it becomes dangerous. Mm-hmm. So you're not just looking at a sump pump in an unfinished basement thinking, well, I really don't have anything that can be damaged. You do.
Yeah, and with a water heater, all the critical components are on the bottom.
Yes.
In a typical water heater.
Right. And once it gets big enough, obviously, you're talking your furnace, and all these other things in your possessions. But if you've got a finished basement, I can't say this enough. Cheap insurance is a battery backup system.
Right, okay.
If you don't have a generator, which a lot of people don't, those are great too, for power outages. But, a backup generator or a backup sump pump is something that, you should really be thinking about. Did you do it yourself and you've got 15, 20 grand in your finished basement? Did you pay somebody to do it? And do you have $30,000 to $100,000 in your basement? Well, if you could put a backup sump pump in there that is going to get you through an emergency until you can get that primary pump fixed or repaired or replaced, for $1,500, $2,000. That to me is that's very reasonable.
Yeah, that's real inexpensive insurance, because the number one thing that's going to kill your basement, all right, and especially if it's even if it's an unfinished basement, you got stuff down there, you got a water heater down there, you got a furnace usually, but the number one thing that is going to blow up your basement is water, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely. It causes the most damage, besides maybe a fire, but cleaning up water, and now you're talking, about mold and all of those things, and carpeting, and what you're going to spend to get a company in there to pump that water out and dry everything out or replace everything, whether it's homeowners insurance or not. Most policies are, I know most people carry a $1,000 deductible. Well, why pay $1,000 deductible and go through all of that when you could spend another $500 to $1,000 and have a backup system there ready to save you in that situation?
Yeah, if you can get the insurance company to go through with it, too.
Yeah, and a lot of times they don't.
Yep. We're talking with Mike Epping from Center Guard Plumbing. You can call them at 847-406-8883 and go to the website. You can find that calculator there, and then also more information. I always recommend checking it out. It's centerguardplumbing.com, and you service all of Chicagoland, right? Pretty much?
Yeah, 7 counties. Really, from the Wisconsin border to the Indiana border, and all the way around Chicago out to Rockford, DeKalb, Joliet. We cover it all.
Yep. When it comes to preventive maintenance, which is, so many times we've talked about that because it's true. 80% of the time it's an emergency. But what are some things you can do in your house to prevent possibly having that problem? We've talked in the past about doing a water heater flush. You can do it yourself or have you do it, right? But what are some other things that a homeowner can do that is going to minimize the probability of having to give you a call?
Yeah, I mean, the easiest thing I think a homeowner can do is just cleaning your aerators and your shower heads. All your faucet aerators are eventually going to get clogged. We've mentioned this before, but I think that's the easiest one. Almost anyone can do that. And what that does is it extends the life of the fixture. Not only are you going to have better pressure, which everyone likes, but you'll actually extend the life of the fixture because you're allowing all the pressure that's going into the faucet out of the faucet. And by restricting that, when an aerator is clogged, all it does is ruin the cartridge and ruin the faucet, and then it can leak into the vanity cabinet below or the kitchen cabinet. Now you're looking at, some water damage.
And if you don't have a soft water system, I mean, that it's even more important, right? Because of the buildup in there?
Yeah, you're going to definitely need, if you don't have water treatment in an area where you have hard water, doing, things like I just mentioned can save you a lot of money, and your fixtures will last a lot longer doing this too.
Yeah, and that's something pretty easy to do. How often do you think you should do that?
Really depends on, your water quality and your pressure. If you see your pressure reducing, on the hot and cold, that's the key.
Okay.
If people have old galvanized pipes, their hot side pressure is always going to be a little bit lower than the cold, just because those lines are slowly closing over time, like our arteries.
Yeah, it's not like copper.
No, not at all. So if you're seeing a pressure reduction on the hot and cold, or if you have a single handle faucet and you have it in the middle, and you can tell your pressure's lower than it was 2 weeks ago, a month ago, take that off and clean it. Your pressure will be back to what it was, and now you're extending the life of that fixture.
Yep. What about one thing that people say that you can do very easily is turn your valves off and on, because, you don't do that for years, and you go to, check a toilet or, do something, and you hit that valve and it's not going to close or open.
Yeah, exercising, shut-off valves, it really depends, I would say, on the homeowner. There's some people that are very capable. Obviously, everyone thinks it's very easy, just turn a valve on and off. The problem is if they don't open it all the way, or if it's, the packing nut starts leaking on the valve body, they might not be able to just tighten that up, and now they've got a leak.
Yep. It's not hard. If you've got an old valve, it's not hard to cause a leak.
No, not at all. And you should, and new construction, any codes now, all the gate valves, which would be kind of the round ship handle type looking valves, those will all be replaced as needed with a quarter turn ball valve. And those, the nice thing about them is they don't calcify, and you don't really have to exercise those the way you do the old gate valves and angle stops.
And they're a whole lot easier to use too.
Oh yeah, no, they've changed the industry tremendously. It saves customers money for sure. When we come in and we shut off a ball valve, we know the water's off.
Yeah.
We know the water's off. When you turn a gate valve, you never know. It might stop turning, but you could easily still have, 10, 20% of the water flow is still going through there, and now we've got to turn off your main and drain your whole house down, and time is money.
All right. Real quick, we want to mention you have a water heater special. Tell us about that.
Yeah, what we're doing right now is through the end of May, we're running 40-gallon atmospheric vent standard installation. We're going to haul away your old one for $12.95 and $13.95 for a 50-gallon.
Yep. And here's what I want you to do if you're thinking about replacing your water heater. And it's one of those things, if it's been in there for a few years, you might want to do a preventative on it because nobody likes to have that. The entire family's going, where's the hot water? Do a search on that, on the prices of your water heater, and then take a look at that. And that price is installed?
Yeah, it's installed for standard install, yes.
Okay. So, again, pretty good price. If you want to check out all the information, go to centerguardplumbing.com. And again, like I always say, have that list together. This is my plumber. This is my HVAC guy and stuff. Do it in advance. Mike, thanks for being on the show.
Thank you, Roger.
Center Guard Plumbing, centerguardplumbing.com, 847-406-8883. This is Home Answers on AM 560, The Answer.